Global Gurus podcast. Here we have 15-minute conversations with thinkers who are shaping the future of leadership and business. Every episode, we ask 3 questions to our guests. What's the biggest problem or challenge you see right now? What's the original methodology you used to solve those challenges? And how are you applying it to create measurable results in the real world? I'm your co-host, Mark Nation, here with Rhett Power. And today we're joined by Greg Williams, Dr. Greg, who is known as the master negotiator and body language expert. Greg, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. I look forward to delivering some insightful information as both you and Rhett pose those 3 questions to me.
Well, excellent. So why don't we get into it? Tell us about what are some of the biggest problems or challenges you see in the world of your work today.
Well, first of all, and I'll demonstrate it in the response. The way people negotiate, they feel as though they're not really equipped to do so. I'll reframe your question in the form of, you asked me about my work. To me, negotiation. That's something that people are not truly aware of at times because they don't feel as though, well, if I'm not sitting across from someone else at an official negotiation table, I'm not really negotiating. That's a serious challenge that I find occurs in the C-suite, in the bedroom, no matter where people are. They're always negotiating, and they must become more aware of that fact. That's a serious challenge throughout the world.
Well, Greg, so I'm going to follow up with a question about that. So are you saying that we negotiate with ourselves? Is that what you're talking about? Every day, all the time?
Oh, well, Red, that's definitely true, because before we negotiate outwardly, we have an inward negotiation with ourselves. How are we going to position ourselves? Why do we think we deserve whatever we're after? What might be the response? How can we prepare for whatever is to come? And again, people have those thoughts within inside themselves before they ever project it outwardly. And to the degree that they are unaware that they're going through that process, they'll just start talking. They won't even literally mentally think about, if I do X, where will that lead? If my response is Y, how will I adapt to that? So yes, people are always negotiating inwardly first.
Yeah. What do you think, Mark?
So once you're negotiating with yourself, ideally, it sounds like you're sort of scripting where you want the ball or the puck to go. How does that reflect outwardly? What your point about we're always negotiating, whether we're in the boardroom or the bedroom.
Well, yeah, I know. I said to myself, do I really want to use that last one in there? But nevertheless, I did. Again, to what degree are you scripting what is to occur as opposed to preparing? Even that is a mental aspect that one has to think about. And the higher the possible outcome, the more thought one should take into consideration. You can be scripted for sure. At the same time, you have to make allowances for how you might have to deviate from your script in order to get back on track. As an example, what triggers might cause you to respond in a particular manner versus another? That's something that you have to consider, because there's some triggers that can really send one to the dark side if one is not careful. And thus you prepare for that ahead of time, such as if it occurs, you know how you're going to respond, and you don't necessarily act negatively because you've been triggered by something that possibly the opposing negotiator knows that they can use to set you off your game.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. Are you so is there a methodology here that you've built to solve this problem?
Thank you for that question. And the answer is yes.
Good.
I like to do that from time to time, just answer a straight question to see what happens. And that's part of the methodology. It's called the Williams Negotiation Architecture, WNA. It consists of three different components. There's GREG, Greg, which stands for greatest recognition of every goal. I'll identify exactly what that is first. When we negotiate, we have our desires, our wants, as does the individual or entity with whom we're negotiating. At certain points in the negotiation, those parameters may slightly change or drastically change. We have to recognize when that occurs. And all three that I'm getting ready to mention, I mentioned Greg a moment ago, consist of observing body language.
Hmm.
Then there's GAIN, GAIN, greatest area for integrative negotiation. Once again, we can look at, let's say, a negotiation as a pie. If you look at it as a pie, I want some of that pie, you want some of that pie. Well, wait a minute. That means those are the parameters in which we're negotiating. What would happen if we expanded that perception of how large, how much that pie consists of? And GAIN actually helps you to do that, because it then looks at what you really want compared to what I really want and shifts the parameters to how can I help you get more of what you want, such that you want to give me more of what I want. And you, again, identify that aspect as you're negotiating through body language, gestures. You may have noticed that I slightly leaned back at a particular point in time. Someone, even if they were on camera, the gestures that they use to indicate the thoughts that are in their mind, even though the words may differ from the thoughts. And just as a sidebar, anytime there's a difference between body language and verbiage, follow the body language. Third, there's tempo, TEMPO. And tempo is something that you observe as you're going through the negotiation process, because what it allows you to do is look at the timing and execution model for practical outcomes. That's what tempo stands for. If by chance I apply a negotiation strategy that I've created in my mind to actually use throughout the process, and I apply that at the wrong time, chances are it's not going to be as impactful as it otherwise would be. So one has to always be mindful of the timing at which they make offers, the timing in which they decide to pause the negotiation, the timing in which they expect some other aspect to take hold in the negotiation. And that's what tempo actually allows you to do. So those are the three components of the Williams negotiation architecture that clients, by the way, have used in order to enhance their negotiation outcomes while maintaining relationships. And that's another important aspect of all of this. The happier everyone is with the negotiation outcome, the more likely it is to stay together, number one, and number two, to have an everlasting relationship in the process.
Wow, that's powerful, Greg. I love a couple of things at least that you said there, or implied. One of them is that the pie doesn't necessarily have to imply that the game is constrained. It doesn't require a winner and a loser. And if you allow yourselves to think creatively, you can expand the space by which decisions are possible, which may be more of a win for each of the parties or all of the parties in multiple cases. Another is you're alluding to helping others get wins, which means if you think about it as much as serving as competing, that might be a really good disposition to have when you're looking at any kind of relationships that you plan to keep. What are your thoughts?
Oh, Mark, you are spot on and on the money as always, because my motto, you're always negotiating. doesn't necessarily mean because you're negotiating with one person one day and you'll never ever negotiate with that individual again, that there will not be some residual effects going down the line. One person may tell someone else how you negotiate, and that will cast the impression of how you might interact with someone else down the line. So, again, preserving relationships is always, from my perspective, a very good thing to do. And to the degree that you help somebody, I mean, think about that mindset. I'm going to help you get what you want. That mindset alone induces collaboration. And now let's take a little sidebar again. If it doesn't, you then know what type of individual you're negotiating with or against. And therein lies the different negotiation styles that one has to be ready and adaptable to and for also.
Yeah, I love that with or against. You end up knowing which it is, and I like that a lot. And that I'd love to talk more, and we can't do that in 15 minutes. But I'd love to talk more about that shift, right? And how do you what is different about the methodology when you have somebody that's not in that same mindset of a win-win, right? Because I imagine it does shift dramatically.
Oh, it definitely can. And like you said, we can't cover it all in 15 minutes, but let me just give you the cook's tour real fast. If you're negotiating against someone that has I need to win in order to, you have to lose in order for me to win type of attitude, you can test it first. Ask the person simply, what's the best outcome that you're seeking from this situation? And they'll give you some idea of where they are, what they want, so forth and so on. And then you test it again by giving them a sliver of what they may want and see how they react. If they come back and say, well, no, I need more than that or something of that nature, that's the time to start adapting to a new perspective per the negotiation style that you use.
Yeah, I love going into it with a positive attitude to begin with, and not a confrontational approach. I think that's really wise. So we've got about 2 or 3 minutes left. How are you applying this to create measurable results in the world?
Well, my clients actually keep statistics, and this whole system is proprietary, as you might imagine. So some have measured their outcomes using the WNA Williams negotiation architecture that I mentioned, and said that their outcomes have increased at least twofold compared to some of the negotiation sessions they've been involved in the past. Now, what does that really mean? Can I say this? Well, I have some high-end clients that are some even in governments, and I'll leave it at that are extremely mindful and cautious about to what degree they expose any of their advantages and the sources from which they come. So I'll leave it at that. Minimum of 2 times what prior negotiation sessions have entailed. And we're talking about some that are truly at an international level, influencing what happens in countries.
Wow. Okay, so that's real impact.
That is real impact. Real impact. So, Greg, where can people find you if they want to learn more? Want to learn about the framework? Want to learn more about body language, negotiation, all of the above? How can they find you?
Well, they can look up in the sky and they'll say, is it a bird? No. What they can do is actually reach out to me at Greg, Greg, at themasternegotiator.com. They can also go to the website, and there's lots of free stuff. I believe in giving to the world so that the world can become better, at themasternegotiator.com. They can also connect with me on LinkedIn, which is under Dr. Greg Williams, the Master Negotiator and Body Language Expert.
Now, you have a book too, right? That people can.
Well, I have several books.
Exactly right. So you have something people can read about this.
Yes. One is titled Negotiating with a Bully. The other is titled, the last 2 are titled Body Language Secrets to Win More Negotiation and Negotiating with a Bully. And I'll tell you, Red, once again, I'm not trying to promote the books or anything of that nature, but there's a lot of insight in both of those 2 that can help people negotiate better and read body language, which is a very essential aspect of negotiations.
That's why I brought it up, because they helped me. So,
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
all right.
Thank you so much for your time, Greg. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And remember, you're always negotiating.
Love it. Love it. So 3 questions, 1 methodology, real results. That's what we're exploring here on each episode of Global Gurus. I'm Mark Nation here with co-host Rhett Power. Thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.